The warning lights flashed red across the control panel. Hana gripped the steering controls harder as her cargo ship shook and rattled. Ice crystals formed on the outside windows. The planet below looked like a giant snowball spinning in space. "Come on, come on," she whispered to her ship. The engine made a terrible grinding sound. Black smoke poured from the left thruster. She had no choice now. She had to land. Hana punched the emergency landing sequence into the computer. The ship dropped fast through the frozen clouds. Wind screamed past the hull. Her teeth rattled as the ship bounced through the atmosphere. She could see nothing but white snow and gray ice below. The landing was rough. The ship hit the ground hard, slid sideways across the ice, and finally stopped against a large snowdrift. Hana's head hit the headrest. Everything went quiet except for the beeping of the warning systems. She sat there for a moment, breathing hard. Her hands shook. She was alive. That was good. But now she was stuck on Velran 4, one of the coldest planets in this sector. That was bad. Hana checked her suit computer. Outside temperature, minus 60 degrees. Atmosphere, breathable but thin. Local time, late evening. The sun was setting fast, and the long night was coming. On Velran 4, nights lasted 30 hours. She grabbed her emergency kit and put on her thermal suit. The suit would keep her warm for maybe 12 hours. After that, she would need to stay inside the ship and hope the heaters kept working. She activated her distress beacon. Help would come, but it might take 2 or 3 days. Hana opened the door. Cold air rushed in like a knife. Even through her suit, she felt the bitter wind. Snow swirled around her boots as she stepped outside. The ship had left a long trail across the ice. The left engine was broken, smoking and hissing. She walked around the ship, checking the damage. It was worse than she thought. The fuel line was cracked. 2 of the landing struts were bent. She would not be flying anywhere soon. That was when she heard it. A sound carried on the wind, high-pitched and sad, like crying. Hana stopped walking. She turned her head, trying to hear it again. There it was, definitely crying, something small and scared. She should stay with the ship. That was the rule. But the crying continued, weak and desperate. Hana followed the sound. She walked past ice formations that looked like frozen waves. The crying grew louder. She climbed over a ridge of snow and saw them. 6 small creatures huddled together in a shallow cave made of ice. They were covered in gray and white fur. Each one had 6 legs tucked under their round bodies. Their eyes were huge and dark, like black marbles. They shivered badly, pressed against each other for warmth. When they saw Hana, they made scared chirping sounds. But they were too cold to run away, too weak to move much at all. "Oh no," Hana said softly. "Where's your mother?" She looked around. No adult creatures anywhere, no tracks except her own. These babies had been left here, abandoned or lost, she could not tell. But they were dying from the cold. Hana knew the rules. Do not interfere with alien life. Do not touch unknown species. Call for proper authorities. But these rules were made by people sitting in warm offices. These rules did not account for 6 pairs of huge, scared eyes looking up at her. She made her decision fast. "Okay, little ones, let's get you warm." Hana reached into her emergency pack and pulled out her thermal blanket. It was silver and thin, but designed to hold body heat. She spread it on the ground near the babies. The creatures did not move at first. They just stared at her with those big eyes. "Come here," she said gently. She patted the blanket. "It's warm, I promise." One brave creature took a tiny step forward, then another step. It touched the blanket with one paw and chirped in surprise. The blanket was warm. That was all it took. All 6 creatures scrambled onto the blanket. Hana carefully wrapped it around them, making a little nest. They snuggled together, chirping happily now. Their shivering slowly stopped. But the wind was getting worse. The temperature was dropping faster. The blanket would help, but it would not be enough out here in the open. "We need to go to my ship," Hana said. She did not know if they understood, but she scooped up the blanket with all 6 creatures inside, making a bundle. They were heavier than they looked. She carried them carefully back toward her ship. The wind pushed against her. Snow stung her face through her helmet. The ship lights were a welcome sight in the growing darkness. She climbed back inside and sealed the door. Warm air surrounded them. Hana set the bundle down gently on the floor. She unwrapped the blanket slowly. The 6 creatures blinked up at her. They looked around at the ship interior with curiosity. One of them, the smallest one with a white patch on its head, suddenly jumped. It climbed up Hana's leg, up her body, and perched right on top of her head. It made a happy, trilling sound. "Really?" Hana laughed. "My head is your spot now?" The creature on her head chirped. The other 5 climbed out of the blanket and explored the small cargo area. They sniffed everything. They touched the walls with their paws. They seemed fascinated by the lights. Hana found some emergency ration bars. She broke off small pieces and offered them to the creatures. They sniffed carefully, then ate. They made happy humming sounds. As the night grew darker outside, Hana sat on the floor. The 5 creatures eventually came back and curled up around her. The 6th one stayed on her head, warm and purring softly. She pulled the thermal blanket over all of them. The ship heaters hummed. The wind howled outside. But inside, it was warm and safe. Hana did not know what these creatures were. She did not know if she had broken a dozen regulations by bringing them inside. She did not know what would happen when rescue came, but right now, 6 small lives were warm and fed and safe. That was enough. She closed her eyes. The creature on her head shifted, getting comfortable. The others breathed slowly, already asleep. Tomorrow would bring new problems, but tonight, they would all survive together. Morning came slowly on Velran 4. The sky changed from black to dark gray. Hana woke up because something was licking her face. She opened her eyes. The smallest creature, the one with the white patch, sat on her chest. Its tongue was rough like sandpaper. It licked her cheek again and made happy chirping sounds. "Good morning to you too," Hana said with a smile. The other 5 creatures were awake. They had found her food supplies and made a mess. Empty ration wrappers were scattered everywhere. One creature had its head stuck in a water bottle. "Hey, no!" Hana sat up quickly. The creature on her chest tumbled into her lap. She grabbed the water bottle and pulled it off the creature's head. "You cannot drink all my water." The creature shook its head and sneezed. Water droplets flew everywhere. Hana looked around her ship. It looked like a storm had hit it. But the creatures seemed happy and healthy. Their fur was fluffed up. Their eyes were bright. They were much better than last night. She checked her distress beacon. Still working. No response yet. She looked at the communication panel. A message was blinking. Hana pressed the button. Static filled the air, then a voice came through. "This is Captain Doyen of the rescue ship Morning Star. We received your distress signal. We are 12 hours away. Please confirm you are safe." Hana grabbed the microphone. "This is Hana. Yes, I am safe. Ship is damaged, but I have heat and supplies." She paused. Should she tell them about the creatures? She looked down. All 6 were staring at her with their big dark eyes. "Captain Doyen, I need to report something. I found 6 alien creatures near my crash site. They were freezing. I brought them inside. They appear to be juveniles of an unknown species." Long silence. Then the captain's voice came back, more serious now. "Hana, did you say unknown alien creatures inside your ship?" "Yes, sir, they were dying. I had no choice." Another pause. "Understood. Do not let them leave. Do not let them touch any critical systems. We will bring a xenobiologist. Sit tight. Morning star out." The communication ended. Hana sighed. She was definitely going to get in trouble for this. One of the creatures tugged on her pant leg. It made a questioning sound. It seemed to sense her worry. "It's okay," she told it. "Help is coming." The creature climbed into her lap. The others gathered around her. The one with the white patch jumped back onto her head. Hana laughed despite her worry. She spent the morning taking care of them. She gave them small amounts of food and water. She noticed they were very smart. They learned quickly which things they could touch and which things they should not. When she said no firmly, they stopped what they were doing. They played with each other, tumbling and wrestling gently. They made many different sounds: chirps, trills, hums, and soft growling. Each sound seemed to mean something different. But they always stayed close to Hana. When she moved to another part of the ship, all 6 followed her. When she sat down, they gathered around her. The smallest one always returned to her head like it was a special throne. Around midday, something strange happened. Hana was checking the engine damage from inside when all 6 creatures suddenly froze. Their ears perked up. They made low warning sounds. "What is it?" Hana asked. Then she heard it too. A deep rumbling sound from outside. Not her rescue ship. Something else. Hana ran to the window. Her heart jumped into her throat. A large alien ship was landing near hers. It was dark gray with strange curved designs. She had never seen this type before. It was not human-made. The creatures in her ship went crazy. They ran in circles, chirping loudly. Some hid under seats. The one on her head gripped her hair tightly. The alien ship's door opened. 3 large creatures emerged. They walked on 4 legs but could rear up on their back too. They were covered in the same gray and white fur as the small ones, but they were huge, bigger than bears. They had sharp teeth and claws. Around their necks were metal collars with blinking lights. Warriors. These were warriors. Hana's hands shook as she locked her ship's door. She grabbed her emergency flare gun. It was not much of a weapon, but it was all she had. The large creatures approached her ship. One of them touched the door and spoke. The words came through her ship's external speakers. They were translated by the collar device into rough human language. "Human, give back our cubs, now." Cubs. These small creatures were their children. "I found them freezing," Hana called through the speaker system. "I only wanted to help them. I kept them warm and safe." One of the large creatures roared. It was a terrifying sound. "You stole them. You took them from sacred ground. You will face judgment." "No," Hana said loudly. "I saved them. They were dying." The smallest cub on her head made a loud trilling sound. Then it did something amazing. It spoke into one of its paws. Hana realized the fur pattern on its paw was actually a translator device, like the collars on the adults. The cub spoke rapidly in its own language. The adults outside stopped moving. They listened. The other 5 cubs ran to the window. They all started talking at once through their paw translators. The adults looked at each other. They seemed confused. One of them spoke again. "The cubs say you shared warmth. You gave food. You showed kindness. Is this true?" "Yes," Hana said. "They needed help, so I helped." Another rumbling sound. Hana looked up. A human ship was arriving, Captain Doyun's rescue vessel. It was smaller than the alien ship, but heavily armed. It landed on the other side of Hana's cargo ship. Now there were 3 ships, 2 groups of aliens, and Hana stuck in the middle with 6 cubs. The door of the human rescue ship opened. Captain Doyun stepped out with 6 armed soldiers. They pointed their weapons at the large alien creatures. "Step away from that cargo ship," Doyun commanded. The alien warriors growled. They showed their teeth, their claws extended. "No!" Hana screamed through her speakers. "Everyone stop!" But the 6 cubs in her ship did something that made everyone freeze. They opened Hana's ship door from the inside. They had watched her use the controls. They had learned. The cubs rushed outside. They did not run to the adult aliens. They ran back to Hana, who had stumbled out of the ship after them. All 6 cubs surrounded her legs, chirping loudly. The smallest one jumped back onto her head. The cubs refused to go to the adults. They stayed with Hana. Everyone stared. The alien warriors looked shocked. Captain Doyen lowered his weapon slightly, confused. One of the alien warriors slowly approached. It looked at Hana. It looked at the cubs gathered protectively around her. It looked at the thermal blanket still clutched in Hana's hand. The warrior did something unexpected. It lowered its head. It made a deep, rumbling purr. "Warmth bringer," it said through its translator. "The cubs have chosen. This changes everything." Captain Doyen kept his weapon ready but did not point it at anyone. His soldiers formed a protective line between Hana and the large alien creatures. The wind blew hard across the frozen ground. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. The alien warrior who had spoken took another step forward. Doyen's soldiers tensed, but Hana held up her hand. "Wait," she said. "Let it speak." The warrior looked at her with intelligent eyes. It was massive up close, easily 3 times her size. Its fur rippled in the wind. The metal collar around its neck glowed with soft blue light. "I am Baram," the warrior said through its translator. "First guardian of the Velrani cubs. We thought our young were taken by ice predators. We searched for days. We found your ship's heat signature and thought it was a predator's nest." "Velrani?" Hana asked. "Is that what you are called?" Baram nodded slowly. "Yes, we are Velrani. This is our homeworld. We thought we were alone here. We did not know humans had returned." "Returned?" Captain Doyen spoke up. "We have never been to this planet before." The other 2 warriors came closer. They moved carefully, watching the human soldiers. One of them was larger than Baram, with scars across its face. The third was smaller and moved with more grace. The scarred one spoke. "I am Taiho, second guardian. Your kind came here long ago, in the time of the Great Freeze, when our world was dying." Hana felt the small cub on her head shift and chirp softly. The other cubs stayed pressed against her legs. They seemed calm now, not afraid, but they would not leave her. "I do not understand," Hana said. "Humans were here before? When?" The third warrior, the graceful one, stepped forward. "I am Nari, third guardian and keeper of memory songs. Your people came 300 cycles ago. They wore suits like yours. They brought warmth machines. They saved our ancestors when the ice grew too deep." Captain Doyen looked at his soldiers. One of them, a young woman named Yuna, was checking a datapad. She looked up with wide eyes. "Captain, she is right. I am finding old records. An expedition came here in 2187. They made contact with an intelligent species, but the species was listed as extinct 50 years later when another ship came to check on them." "We hid," Baram said. "After your people left, the ice grew worse. We went underground, deep caves. We slept through the worst years. Only now is our world warming enough to return to the surface." Hana's mind raced. These creatures remembered humans. They remembered kindness from 3 centuries ago. That was why they had stopped attacking. That was why Baram had called her warmth bringer. But why were the cubs alone? Hana asked. Why were they left in the ice? The 3 Velrani guardians looked at each other. Nari spoke, and her voice was sad. It was a test, a terrible old tradition. When cubs reach their 3rd season, they must spend 1 night in the ice, alone, to prove they are strong, to prove they can survive. She looked down. It is a cruel law. Many of our elders want to change it, but tradition is powerful. They were babies, Hana said, anger rising in her voice. They could have died. Yes, Taiho said quietly. Some do die. That is the point of the test. Only the strong survive. That is what our laws say. That is horrible, Yuna said. The other soldiers nodded in agreement. The cubs chirped and moved closer to Hana. The smallest one on her head made a long, sad sound. Hana reached up and gently touched it. It rubbed against her hand. She gave them warmth, Bahram said, watching this. She wrapped them in her blanket. She brought them to safety. She fed them. He looked at the other guardians. Do you understand what this means? Nari nodded slowly. The old stories. The promise of warmth. When a stranger shares their warmth with our cubs, they become pack. They become family. The cubs have chosen her. What does that mean exactly? Captain Doyen asked. He still looked ready to fight if needed. Taiho explained. Velrani cubs imprint on those who save them. It is instinct, ancient and deep. These 6 now see her as their mother. They will not leave her willingly. If we try to force them, they will become wild with grief. Some may die from the sadness. Hana felt her heart clench. She looked down at the 6 cubs around her feet. They looked back with trusting eyes. The one on her head purred softly. I cannot keep them, Hana said. I am human. I live on a ship. I travel through space. They need to be with their own kind. They need to be with their pack, Bahram corrected. You are their pack now. Captain Doyen shook his head. This is too complicated. We need to contact the proper authorities, the Interstellar Council, diplomats, scientists. While you talk and make rules, what happens to the cubs? Hana asked. What happens to them? Silence fell. The wind howled. Snow began to fall lightly. One of Doyun's soldiers, a man named Jiho, spoke up. Captain, look at them. They are not acting like captured animals. They are acting like they found their mother. It was true. The cubs were relaxed and happy. They made soft, content sounds. They leaned against Hana's legs. One of them was playing with her bootlace. Bahram took another step closer. The human soldiers raised their weapons again, but Bahram moved slowly, carefully. He lowered his huge head until it was level with Hana's face. Warmth bringer, he said. Will you come with us? To our settlement? Meet our elders? Let them see what you have done? Is that safe? Doyen demanded. How do we know you will not harm her? Taiho made a sound like a laugh. Harm her? She carries 6 of our cubs. She is marked by the promise of warmth. Anyone who harms her will face the fury of every Velrani alive. She is safer than your most protected leaders. Nari added, Please, our people need to see this. They need to understand. You could help us change the old laws. Help us protect our cubs better. Hana looked at Captain Doyen. What do you think? Doyen was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. I think this is way above my pay grade. But I also think these creatures are being honest. And I think those cubs really have chosen you. He smiled slightly. You always did have a way with animals from what your file says. I have 6 cats back home, Hana admitted. But these are not cats. No, Bahram agreed. These are Velrani, smarter than cats, more loyal than dogs, and now they are yours. The smallest cub on Hana's head chirped loudly as if agreeing. Hana made her decision. Okay, I will come to your settlement, but Captain Doyen comes too, with his soldiers, just in case. Bahram nodded. Agreed. You may bring your warriors. We will bring ours. We will have a gathering under the peace banners. One more thing, Hana said. These cubs need names. I have been calling them the Cubs, but they deserve better. Nari looked surprised. You wish to name them? That is a great honor? Usually only blood parents name cubs. Well, apparently I am their mother now, Hana said. She pointed to each cub. That one is Snowball because he is the fluffiest. That one is Trouble because she keeps getting into things. That one is brave because he was the first to come to me. That one is gentle because she is the sweetest. That one is clever because he figured out how to open my ship door. And this one—" She reached up to touch the cub on her head. "This is Little Star because she wanted to be close to the sky." The cubs chirped and made happy sounds at their new names. The three guardians looked at each other with what might have been smiles. "Good names," Bahram said. "Now come, let us go home. Let us show our people that the warmth bringers have returned." The journey to the Velrani settlement took 2 hours. They traveled in a strange convoy across the frozen landscape. The large alien transport carried Bahram, Taiho, and Nari, along with 20 other Velrani warriors. Captain Doyen's rescue ship followed close behind with Hana and his soldiers. Hana sat in the passenger area with the 6 cubs piled around her. Little Star refused to leave her head. The other 5 took turns sitting in her lap. They seemed excited, chirping and looking out the windows at the ice formations passing by. "This is insane," Yuna said from the seat across from Hana. "Yesterday you were a cargo pilot. Today you are a mother to 6 alien cubs." Hana laughed nervously. "I still cannot believe it myself. What do I know about raising alien children?" "About as much as anyone," Jiho said. He was checking his weapon for the 3rd time. "No human has done this before." Captain Doyen came back from the cockpit. He sat down heavily. "I just got a message from Earth Command. They want hourly updates. They are sending a diplomatic team. They should arrive in 5 days." "What did you tell them?" Hana asked. "The truth. That we found a previously thought-extinct alien species. That they remember humans from 3 centuries ago. And that one of our pilots accidentally became a mother to their cubs." He shook his head. "They did not believe me at first." Snowball, the fluffiest cub, climbed onto Doyen's lap. The captain froze. The cub looked up at him with big dark eyes and made a questioning chirp. Hello," Doyen said awkwardly. He carefully patted the cub's head. Snowball purred and curled up in his lap. "I think you just got adopted too," Hana said with a grin. The Velrani transport ahead of them began to descend. They were approaching a massive canyon in the ice. As they flew lower, Hana saw lights in the walls of the canyon. Windows. Hundreds of them. "They live in the ice," Yuna breathed. "Look at that." The settlement was built into the canyon walls. It went down dozens of levels, each one carved into the frozen rock. Bridges made of ice and metal connected different sections. Lights glowed warmly from the windows. Hana could see Velrani moving on the bridges, going about their lives. At the bottom of the canyon was a large open plaza. The transport landed there. Doyen's ship landed beside it. When the doors opened, cold air rushed in, but it was not as bitter as before. The canyon blocked the worst of the wind. Heating vents built into the walls made the temperature almost comfortable. Hundreds of Velrani had gathered in the plaza. Adults, elders, and many cubs. They all stared at the human ship with curiosity and some fear. Bahram stepped out first. He raised his front paws high and roared. The sound echoed through the canyon. All the Velrani fell silent. "People of the deep ice," Bahram called out. "The old stories are true. The warmth bringers have returned." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some Velrani looked excited. Others looked skeptical. A group of elderly Velrani at the front looked angry. Hana stepped out of the ship. The 6 cubs immediately surrounded her just as before. Little Star perched on her head. The crowd gasped. An old Velrani, larger than even Taiho and covered in white fur, pushed forward. His voice was harsh. "Blasphemy! Those are the test cubs. They belong to us. The human has stolen them." Bahram stepped between the elder and Hana. "Elder Wujin, she did not steal them. She saved them. They were freezing to death." "That is the purpose of the test," Wujin shouted. "The weak die, the strong survive. That is our way. It has always been our way. A cruel way, another voice called out. A female Velrani with gray and silver fur came forward. She was smaller than the warriors, but carried herself with authority. I am Elder Harin. I have argued against the test for many years. Perhaps it is time we listened. The crowd split into two groups. Some sided with Wu Jin, nodding and growling in agreement. Others moved toward Harin, looking hopeful. Nari stepped forward. Elders, the cubs have imprinted on the human. They have chosen her as pack. This is the promise of warmth, just like in the ancient songs. The promise is a myth, Wu Jin snapped. A story to comfort children. Then explain this, Harin said. She gestured to the cubs around Hana. Look at them. They will not leave her side. They are calm and happy. This is not normal behavior for stolen cubs. This is imprinting. This is choice. Wu Jin growled low. Then let us test it. Remove the cubs from the human. If they truly want her, they will return. If not, this is just human trickery. Hana's stomach clenched. Captain Doyen moved closer to her, his hand on his weapon. His soldiers formed a protective circle. No, Hana said firmly. I will not let you traumatize them just to prove a point. You have no authority here, human, Wu Jin said. She has the authority of the cubs themselves, Taeho said, stepping forward. They chose her. That is our oldest law. Older than the test. Older than your position as elder. Wu Jin. The crowd murmured louder now. An ancient-looking Velrani, so old her fur was completely white and her eyes were clouded, shuffled forward. Everyone fell silent immediately. Elder Yuna speaks, Baram whispered to Hana. She is our oldest. She was alive during the Great Freeze. Yuna's voice was thin but clear. I was there. I was a cub when the humans came before. I remember their warm machines. I remember their kindness. They asked for nothing in return. They simply saw us suffering and helped. She moved closer to Hana, studying her with those clouded eyes. She reached out a paw and touched Hana's hand. The old Velrani made a sound like crying. The same warmth, Yuna said. I feel it. The same kindness my mother felt. The humans have not changed. Little Star chirped from Hana's head. Yuna looked up and made a gentle sound. Little Star climbed down and walked to the old Velrani. She rubbed her head against Yuna's paw. This little one knows me, Yuna said. She trusts me because I trust her new mother. She looked at the crowd. The promise of warmth is not a myth. I watched it happen 300 years ago. When the first humans shared their warmth, when they asked for nothing but gave everything, they became part of our pack. They became family. Yuna turned to Wu Jin. You speak of tradition, but you forget our oldest tradition. The tradition of gratitude. The tradition of remembering those who showed us kindness when we were dying. Wu Jin looked uncomfortable. But the test was created after the humans left, Yuna interrupted. It was born from fear and desperation. We were alone again. We thought we had to become hard to survive. But hardness without kindness is cruelty. These 6 cubs nearly died for no reason except tradition. She looked at Hana. Will you allow this old one to hold a cub? To remember what warmth feels like? Hana knelt down. Brave, go to the elder. The cub named Brave walked over to Yuna. The ancient Velrani picked him up gently, cradling him like precious treasure. Tears fell from her clouded eyes. So small, so trusting, just as I was when the first human gave me warmth. She looked at the crowd. We owe the humans a debt we can never repay. They saved our entire species. And now one of them has done it again, saving our cubs without even knowing our history. The crowd was completely silent now. Even Wu Jin had no words. Yuna handed Brave back to Hana. I declare before all witnesses, this human is pack friend. The 6 cubs are hers to raise. Any who harm her or them will answer to me. Despite her age, Yuna's voice carried power. The crowd nodded, even those who had sided with Wu Jin. Haren came forward. "Pack friend Hana, will you teach us your ways? Will you help us end the cruel test? Will you show us how to raise our cubs with warmth and kindness?" Hana looked at Captain Doyen. He nodded slightly. She looked at the 6 cubs around her. They looked back with complete trust. "I will try," Hana said. "I am not perfect. I do not know everything. But I know that children, any children, need love and warmth and safety. I can help you with that." Baram raised his paws high again. "Then let us celebrate. The warmth bringers have returned. The old debt is remembered. The new friendship begins." The plaza erupted in cheers and roars. Velrani cubs ran forward, wanting to meet the human and her adopted cubs. Captain Doyun's soldiers relaxed slightly, seeing the joy in the crowd. Hana sat down on the cold ground, suddenly exhausted. The 6 cubs piled onto her immediately. Little Star climbed back to her favorite spot on Hana's head. Yuna sat down beside her. "You have changed our world twice now, your people. First, by saving us from extinction. Now, by reminding us what we had forgotten." "What is that?" Hana asked. "That strength without kindness is not strength at all. It is just surviving. But surviving is not living." The old Velrani smiled. "You have taught us to live again." 3 months passed like a dream. Hana's small cargo ship had been repaired and sat in the Velrani hangar. But she had not left. She could not leave. The 6 cubs needed her, and somehow she needed them too. The Velrani had given her a home carved into the canyon wall. It had big windows that let in light, heating vents that kept it warm, and enough space for 6 energetic cubs to play. They had also given her a translator collar like the warriors wore, so she could understand and speak Velrani properly. Little Star still slept on her head every night. Snowball had claimed the warmest corner near the heating vent. Trouble had learned how to open every cabinet in the home. Brave was the first to try every new food. Gentle helped take care of the younger cubs in the settlement. And Clever had figured out how to use the door controls and regularly escape to explore. Captain Doyen had left after 2 weeks, but he visited every week to check on Hana. His ship brought supplies and messages from Earth. The diplomatic team had arrived and set up a proper embassy in the settlement. Contact between humans and Velrani was now official, but the real changes were happening in the settlement itself. Elder Wu Jin had stepped down from his position. He admitted finally that he had been wrong. The test had been ended by a vote of all adults. Never again would cubs be left in the ice to die. Instead, the Velrani adopted a new tradition, the teaching of warmth. Cubs would learn to survive, yes, but they would learn from adults who guided and protected them. Hana sat in the settlement's main hall, watching as Velrani parents brought their cubs to learn. She had become a teacher without meaning to. She showed them how she cared for her 6 cubs, how she played with them, how she set rules, but also gave affection, how she helped them learn without making them afraid. Nari sat beside her, taking notes on a data pad. The warrior had become Hana's closest friend among the Velrani. "The parents are changing," Nari said. "They smile more. They play with their cubs instead of just commanding them. You have done this." "Not just me," Hana said. "They wanted to change. They just needed permission to be gentle." Little Star climbed down from Hana's head and ran off to play with a group of other cubs. Hana watched her go with a mixture of pride and worry. "She is growing more independent," Nari observed. "That is good. It means you are raising her well." "I miss when she was tiny," Hana admitted. "Is that silly?" "No. That is being a mother." Nari's tail swished. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Will you stay here? Forever? The cubs will be adults in 5 more years. After that, they will not need you the same way." Hana had thought about this question many times. I do not know. Part of me wants to go back to space, to my old life. But another part of me cannot imagine leaving them. Perhaps you do not have to choose, Nari said. Perhaps there is a third option. Before Hana could ask what that meant, alarms rang through the settlement. Not danger alarms. These were welcoming bells. A ship was arriving, a big one. Everyone moved to the plaza. A massive human vessel descended through the canyon, bigger than any ship Hana had seen before. It had government markings and diplomatic flags. That is an ambassador-class ship, Nari said. Why would Earth send such an important vessel? The ship landed gently. Its doors opened. Captain Doyun stepped out first, grinning widely. Behind him came a woman in formal diplomatic robes. She was elderly, with gray hair and kind eyes. Ambassador Somin, Nari whispered. She is Earth's most senior diplomat. She negotiated the Tau Ceti peace. Ambassador Somin walked forward. She bowed respectfully to Elder Haran and Elder Yuna, who had come to greet her. Honored elders, Somin said through her translator, I come with a proposal from the United Earth Government and the Interstellar Council. The entire settlement had gathered now. Hundreds of Velrani and dozens of human embassy workers all waited to hear. Somin smiled at the crowd. 3 months ago, we learned that the Velrani had survived. We learned about an ancient friendship between our peoples, and we learned about one cargo pilot who reminded both species what really matters: kindness, compassion, and family. She gestured for Hana to come forward. Hana stood up, suddenly nervous. The 6 cubs followed her, as they always did. Hana, Somin said, you have done more for human Velrani relations than any diplomat could have done. You have shown us all what it means to be human. What it should mean. I just helped some cubs, Hana said quietly. You did more than that. You built a bridge between worlds. Somin pulled out a data pad. The Interstellar Council has voted unanimously. They want to propose a formal alliance between Earth and Velran 4. An alliance of warmth, they are calling it. The crowd murmured excitedly. Elder Haran's tail swished rapidly. A sign of joy. But, Somin continued, such an alliance needs an ambassador, someone both species trust, someone who understands both cultures, someone who has already proven they can bring us together. She looked directly at Hana. We would like you to be the first ambassador of warmth. You would travel between Earth and Velran 4, helping our peoples learn from each other, building cultural exchanges, overseeing trade agreements, and most importantly, continuing to teach what you have taught here. Hana's mouth fell open. Me? But I am just a cargo pilot. I have no training in diplomacy. You have the most important training, Elder Yuna said, shuffling forward. You have a kind heart. You have wisdom without knowing it. You have shown us how to be better. That is what an ambassador should do. Elder Haran nodded. The Velrani people support this. We want you to represent both our peoples. You carry our cubs in your heart. You carry our gratitude in your actions. There is no one better. Brave tugged on Hana's pant leg. She looked down at him. All 6 cubs were looking up at her with their big eyes. Little Star chirped encouragingly. You would have a ship, Somin added. A proper diplomatic vessel, large enough for you and your family. She smiled at the 6 cubs. Because they are your family now, officially. Earth has granted them citizenship. They are legally your children. Hana felt tears in her eyes. Really? Really? Captain Doyen stepped forward. I told them if they did not give you this job, I would quit and come work for the Velrani instead. You are the best person for this, Hana. You proved that. Hana looked around. At the Velrani settlement that had become her home, at the humans who had supported her, at Nari, who had become like a sister, at the cubs who had become her everything. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, Somin said. This is a big decision. Take your time. But Little Star had other ideas. She climbed up to Hana's head and chirped loudly. Then she spoke through her paw translator, her voice high and clear. Mama should do it. Mama should teach everyone to be warm and kind like her. We will help. The other 5 cubs chirped in agreement. Snowball spoke next. We want to see Earth. We want to see the stars. We want to go with Mama. Hana laughed through her tears. You all want to go to space? Yes, all 6 cubs said together. The crowd laughed. Even stern Elder Wu Jin, watching from the back, had a smile on his face. Hana looked at Ambassador Somin. If I do this, I have conditions. Name them, Somin said. First, my cubs come everywhere with me. They are not just passengers. They are part of the mission. They represent the future of Velrani human friendship. Agreed. Second, Captain Doyen becomes my chief security officer. I trust him. Doyen straightened up, surprised. Then he grinned. I accept. Third, Nari becomes my cultural advisor. I need someone who knows Velrani history and traditions. Nari's eyes widened. I would be honored. Fourth, and most important, Hana said firmly, this alliance must include protection for all Velrani cubs, proper schools, health care, no more tests, no more children left to die. That is non-negotiable. Elder Heron bowed deeply. We swear it. The teaching of warmth will become our law. We will care for our young as you have shown us. Ambassador Somin held out her hand. Then we have an agreement? Hana took her hand and shook it. We have an agreement. The alliance of warmth begins today. The plaza erupted in cheers and roars. Velrani and humans celebrated together. Cubs ran in excited circles. Adults embraced. The canyon walls echoed with joy. Little Star chirped happily on Hana's head. We did it, Mama. We made everything better. Hana reached up and gently stroked her. No, little one. You made everything better. You and your siblings. You chose to trust a stranger in the cold. You chose love over fear. You taught me as much as I taught you. That night, Hana stood at the window of her home. The 6 cubs were piled on her sleeping platform, snoring softly. Tomorrow, they would begin preparing for their new life. The diplomatic ship would need to be outfitted, crews would be hired, protocols would be established. But tonight, Hana simply watched the stars above the canyon. Somewhere up there was Earth, her old home. Down here was Velron 4, her new home. And somehow she belonged to both now. Nari came in quietly. Cannot sleep? Too excited, Hana admitted. Too scared, too everything. That is how all great adventures begin. Nari stood beside her. You know, in the old memory songs, we have a prophecy. It says that one day, a stranger will come from the stars. This stranger will share warmth when they have no reason to. And this sharing will change everything. You think I am that stranger? Hana asked. I know you are. You changed our world by doing the simplest thing, caring about 6 small lives when you could have walked away. That is the power of warmth. That is the power of kindness. Little Star stirred on the sleeping platform. She chirped in her sleep, dreaming of flying through stars. Hana smiled. I am not special, Hana said softly. I am just someone who could not walk away from cubs in the cold. That, Nari said, is what makes you special. You have the rarest gift in the universe, a heart that chooses compassion every time. That is why the cubs chose you. That is why we chose you. That is why this will work. 6 months later, the diplomatic ship Warmth Bringer launched from Velran 4. On board were humans and Velrani working side by side. Ambassador Hana stood on the bridge with her 6 cubs, now bigger but still hers. Little Star had finally started sleeping in her own bed, but she visited Hana's head every morning. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, heading toward their first diplomatic mission, Hannah thought about that cold night 3 months ago. She had been a cargo pilot with a broken ship. Now she was an ambassador with a family and a purpose. All because she shared her blanket. All because 6 cubs taught her that love knows no species, no planet, no boundary. All because warmth, once given freely, grows and spreads until it changes the universe itself. And that, she realized, was the greatest adventure of all.